what your choices have been, and what karmic timelines and contracts you have journeyed. The light is calling for the reunification of all aspects of life in this realm now. It is calling for the cleansing of all polarities. It is calling for the rising of all sacred heart centers now. All are being summoned home to the greater light now.
Hi, and welcome everyone to Whole Soul Mastery and Whole Soul School and Foundation's joint podcast today. I'm back again with Becky Grabski. We podcasted, it was a few months back. I didn't even check before we got on camera. And we podcasted with a mutual friend, Louise Klein. And here we are as we round out 2023. There's a lot of energy going on the planet and in many people's lives, and the holidays are adding into the mix. It's a beautiful time of the year. It's a special season for many people at this time of the year. I've had some messages that I've recently posted about just really like honoring the light in this time of the year, the season of light. And as we honor the season of light, I wanted to seed in our conversation today this awareness of going deep as we enjoy the holidays and we're in the season of light. We're going to be surrounded by friends and family and lots of dynamics and all kinds of things going on this month and as we enter the new year, and really spotlighting a way to become present with all that's going to be going on. How do we go deep inside ourselves and connect with who we are? How do we connect with our dreams for next year? I think a lot of people at this time of year are thinking about what they want to experience, the adventures they want to have, things they might want to change in their lives, like that New Year's resolution-y type awareness that we all have at New Year's. But I think the world over is kind of aware that change is happening on an epic scale. And whether people are conscious of this or they're just experiencing this through things that happen in their daily lives, we're all aware that things are changing at some level. At some level, I think people are aware that there's a lot of shifts going on. And you are somebody who is comfortable with going deep. In fact, that is the marrow of what you do. That is who you are. And you will be present with people in going deep. And maybe you just want to talk about that. I want to first welcome you to the show, and I want to thank you for joining me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. And I'm so grateful because our world isn't, can I say this? Our world, we're not raised in a world where going deep is valued. And so not only are most people not aware of the value of going deep and what that means, which I want to give you absolutely time to share that, but I just want to say not only are we not valuing it necessarily, because we weren't taught this, it wasn't always modeled. Then if you do realize that there is value in exploring who you are, then there's the challenge that seems to be a big chasm between, like, how do I find somebody who will go deep with me, right? You are one of those people. And I'd love for you to share I would love for you to share what going deep means for you.
Thank you. Yes. And just to say, I'm so happy to be here. And thank you so much for having me. And this is my favorite topic, is going deep. Some people are really good with chit chat. I'm not that good at chit chat. You know, I can certainly talk and communicate and connect and all of that with people on a very quick basis, like at the grocery store or in an elevator or something. But as far as really just chit-chatting about just nothing, like superficial things, you know, I can do that for a moment, but then I just lose interest and it just doesn't come naturally to me. My natural inclination is just to dive down into and find the seed of whatever it is and then play around down there. So that's my natural inclination. And that's why I have the clients that I have, because the people that I work with, we all have challenges. If we're a human being on the face of the earth, we have issues, we have challenges, we have things going on, and that's just the way of it. And so a lot of times what we need is to be able to be with that person that can sort of like hold the space, and also help, guide you down, because a lot of times we're so afraid of going down into the depths. We're afraid of what we're going to find. And so we don't want to. We just want to, like, pretend like, oh, everything's fine, but the fact is that sometimes we just need help. And so for me, that's where life is. That's where everything happens. Our soul is down here. It's not up here. It's not out here. It's inside. Our feelings, our passions, our creativity, it's all inside. And if we don't take time to go inside, then we're not going to find those things, and we're going to stay in sort of like a shallow place. And like if you're a boat on the ocean, and storm comes, you get walloped back and forth. But if you're a whale and you're just swimming down in the deep, and there's a storm going up here, the whale doesn't even feel it. It's just swimming along, doing its thing, living its life, and expressing itself the way it does. And so going deep is just, for me, it's what makes life worth living.
That is so profound. It's what makes life worth living. And I use the word marrow. Who wrote that book, Man's Search for Meaning? Or there's a lot of books about people who, I think this is a time where, again, when we're on these podcasts here with Color the Magic, which is the channel on YouTube that people would watch a video like this, or Whole Soul School and Foundation, there's a wide audience. There's a lot of people in different experiences in their lives at different levels of being aware of what we're talking about. But everybody can feel when they felt joy. Everybody knows what it feels like to feel good. And everybody knows what it feels like to not feel good. And even just those things as a barometer of, if you're living someone else's life, if your life is somebody else's life and not yours, because you're not living from the deep. You're not living from those seeds that are deep inside. You're living more at the surface level, which I think was your example of the water and the whale. I also felt when you talked about going deep, this very natural going deep, I really felt you also expressing kind of like gardening. It's like going and nurturing the deepest seeds. A lot of people don't know that they have seeds, and they don't know anywhere where they would be in their body or in their consciousness. So I love that we're going deep to bring to light the gift of going deep, because most people want to avoid it. Like they really don't want to go there, but often it is what we most fear is the thing we need to go and spend time with. Because what is that also expression? The only thing to fear is fear itself. And we don't really even need to fear. It's just fear of the unknown, or fear of the things that we've pushed down for so long, that actually want to come to the surface so that people can be free, so that people can live more of who they are and engage more of life's riches, right? Making life worth living. And I love that we're bringing attention to this, because it's also the gift of the season. That if this is a season if the month of December and the holidays is celebrated really as a season of light, whichever particular faith that people celebrate, to me, when you look at the world's major religions, it's all about light. They're celebrating light. And what does light do? It shines a light on the darkness. It isn't always the joy at the top. sometimes the light comes and exposes the things that are out of alignment or that have needed attention for a long time, and people just haven't made space, and they don't have the skills perhaps to get grounded to look at those things. And the beauty of what it's like when people work with you, you know, you're a psychic counselor, you're somebody who really is most comfortable going deep. And I know a lot of coaches and therapists and psychologists, but not all practitioners are comfortable with going deep. And so when you can find somebody who's willing to go into those shadowy places with you, and you hold the lantern, and you may even go first, right? So you're like, they're walking just right with you, like slightly behind, just like
Hand in hand.
hand in hand, right? Exactly. And there you are, and you're shining a light. It's not so scary when you're going through it with somebody else, that's their gift. That's your gift, is going into those places.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of like our friend Louise from our last podcast.
yes.
You know, not everybody knows how to, you know, Louise is a feng shui master, and she just knows houses. She just knows the flow of energy in a house, where to put what and how to shift the energy and all of that stuff. I don't know those things. I can go inside, but as far as the actual physical house, it's like, you know, Louise can take me by the hand and guide me through the process
Yes.
of teaching me about this. And so, and I love that. So, you know, what I do is when I work with somebody, you know, that quote by Ram Dass, we're just walking each other home.
Yes.
You know, that's really what I feel like I do. So when I work with somebody, and I don't know if I said this in the last podcast or not, so forgive me if I'm repeating myself, but just to talk about my work for just a moment, the way I worked, because I feel like it pertains to this conversation, is I tell people that I'm a psychic, you know, that I help people, and which is true. And I you know, tell people that I work with people who suffer from PTSD or trauma, or who are going through a major life transition of one kind or another. Maybe their husband or wife died, or maybe something else is going on. They're shifting gears from being somebody from you know, working a big career to retirement, and you know, moving from country to country, or whatever. So many different major transitions can happen. That can cause a lot of anxiety, and it causes things to bubble up from inside, you know. So I say that, you know, I'm a psychic and I work with these kinds of situations, and I do, and that's true. You know, so another way that I put it sometimes is that, you know, I really just open the space and I hold it for this person I'm working with, so that they can come in and they can explore on their own. They can find their own, you're like, oh, I didn't know that was there, or oh, well, isn't that interesting? Or, you know, so I hold the space, I turn the light on, and they get to explore, you know, inside that space, knowing that it's being held. But one of the things that I want to say about that is, the real thing that I do is I love people. And that's really what I do. And that love is what opens the space and what holds the space. You know, that love, and I'm not talking about, of course, you know, anybody listening to this podcast would know this, but I'm not talking like romantic love or attachment love or any, you know, this is like the deepest kind of love, and the most open and accepting kind of love. It's not about wanting something from somebody. It's not about expectations. It's not about anything. It's about the purity of the essence of love. And when I'm with someone and I'm loving them, it's like their nervous system calms down. You know, and when our nervous system calms down, our anxiety calms, our fear calms, you know, we get grounded, we feel just a lot more centered. We can access when all these things that are firing off all the time are calmed down. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. And so you can sink down. You know, when you're like, just imagine, you know, when you think about a mother holding a baby, you know, that baby is completely calm. Even when you're a child and you've skinned your knee or something has happened, you know, you go running to mom and your mom holds you, and then it's like, okay, that love is what does it, you know? And so it's kind of like that. It's, you know, and you know, the thing about going deep, it's not so much about what you're going to find there. I know that, you know, in the society, we're all about goals and action, and, you know, we have to get something from what we're doing, you know, and, you know, it's all very quite serious and fast and goal oriented, thing oriented and all that. The thing about going deep is that it's about not having expectation. It's about being purely open and really feeling the love and sinking down into it and just being there and just living there. That's what it's about. It's not about what you're supposed to get while you're there. It's about being there. And when you can really allow that, if you can find some time to sink down into yourself and just be, then what you can do is you can realize that all of the things that are firing off on your nervous system, they calm down and they sort of like, you know, whittle away. And when that happens, all of a sudden, not all of a sudden, sometimes it takes a minute or two or 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever to just be in that space. But at some point, you can breathe and you can access the part of yourself that's the real you. It's not the role, mom, wife, coworker, boss, sister, whatever. It's not the role. It's not your dreams. You know, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. I have a passion for this, I have a passion for that. It's not about that. It's about finding the essence of who you really are and sitting inside that essence and being in there and letting that, it's like finally getting in touch, finally being who you really are. And when you can be there in that nice, beautiful, calm space, that's when you can really find out, well, what are my dreams? I know I've got them. I know I used to have them, but I've been so busy and I've been so, you know, whammied by all of these different things going on that I don't even remember what my dreams are. You know, I've been so giving myself to this caretaking or that job or, you know, whatever, you know, especially as women, whoever, you know, if there are women watching this and even men too, but, you know, we're caregivers. And so we take care of, you know, but that's out there. You know, even though it's very, you know, you do it out of love and you do it out of dedication and all of that, it's still, you know, out there. And if we don't take the time to come back inside, then we lose, not permanently, just temporarily, we lose that understanding of who we really are. And so when we go down and we allow ourselves to sink down into that place and just be there, no expectations, no goals, no nothing, just sit and be in that space, what happens is that we start remembering who we are. We start remembering what our dreams are. We start remembering what we're actually passionate about. We start remembering all the things that are really important to our soul, not just, you know, paying a bill, not, you know, not, we have to do that too. But I mean, this is where life is. This is where we find direction. This is where, when we are more connected to this, then our friendships are more connected because we know who we are in the friendship. Sometimes we're in friendships and we don't even know who we are. We're just playing some kind of a role that I don't know how I got here, but this is what I'm doing. And so when we go down, we can acknowledge who we are. We can remember who we are. We can remember all the things that are really important to us. And then the more we do that, the more we can bring that up and out into the world that we're living in. And we can make more of a difference. We can be more authentic. We can share more of the love that we have, that we are. It's like just being able to be there gives us those tools. Even like we can't name the tools. It's like, it's just an energy that we have, that we are. And that energy is a tool that affects those people around us, our relationships, our parents, children, siblings, coworkers, friends, strangers on the street. You know, that's when you walk past somebody, you don't know them and you'll never meet them again. Maybe, maybe not. But it's not about, it's just like, and then, you know, they might have been in a grumpy mood, but then all of a sudden they're smiling and they don't even know why. And you don't even know why. It's not even important for anybody to know why. It's just because you were able to be in that deep place within yourself. That's when it can come up and it can spill over. And that's when you can truly give from that essence. You know, that's when your giving isn't about ego. Oh, I gave, so I'm good. You know, it's not about self-image. You know, it's about, oh, and it just spills over and you naturally give without even thinking about it. It might be a word or a smile. It might be something more. But when it comes from that place, that's when the magic happens. You know, that's when people feel it. And that's when they get touched. And that's when they can go a little bit deeper inside themselves. So by going deep within yourself, that's the gift that you can give somebody else. You can support them without even doing anything specifically. You can support them in going a little deeper within themselves.
So amazing. It's like one seed going into the stillness, going into that sacred space you're talking about, going deep, just by feeling that and being willing to go into that still sacred space. When you emanate the energy of the gifts of what that is for you, it invites other people, even subconsciously, to connect with that energy in you that reminds them of what they have inside as well. And it's so beautiful. I feel so many things. I feel like my whole pulse slowed down when I just listened to the energies that you were sharing. It just got really calm and still. And that's one of the beautiful things where you lead people in this process of going deep, to feel that it's comforting, it's cradling, it's renewing, it's really remembering. But it's at first, when you allow yourself to go there and you have somebody like Becky helping you access this divine place inside. To me also, as you were talking, for me, this may not be true for everybody, but I felt like the Garden of Eden coming alive inside me again, as like a life force, as like a living vibration. Doesn't have to be a physical garden inside me. It's an etheric garden. And in that garden, everything grows. Everything thrives in that sacred space, right? And sometimes you need a guide who will open the door, right? Who people are unfamiliar with this path. You know, if they're talking, they go up here to access their thoughts. They go up for the ego to guide what they're saying, what they're thinking, what they're doing. But if you actually allowed yourself to go down, go deeper into the soil of that Garden of Eden energy, I also was reminded of, like, in every single seed is everything it needs to grow, to become who it is, whatever it is. And I think about why people for centuries have loved flowers, right? When you care about somebody, you give flowers. Does
Mhm.
anybody stop and think about why that is, right? For me, there's a purity to those flowers of like they've grown from the soil, from the earth, with sun and water as their soul food. And their whole design is to rise up out of the depths of that soil and turn to the sun and grow and be watered and nourished from the rains. And I feel like that's what's pretty dehydrated. We might have some dehydrated seeds inside our gardens, but all they need is the watering of our willingness to go spend time with them. And when you can have someone like Becky, that's when that's their specialty, where their specialty is going and walking the path into the depths of the garden, where however people visualize that, but there's a special place that's just for you. And when your consciousness, instead of going up into your ego, goes down into your, for me, it's my heart chamber, it goes down into the frequencies in that whole heart chakra. That's where we remember we have everything we need. We have everything we need, and thoughts of bills and thoughts of stress and thoughts of all the deadlines with work or jobs or whatever it might be, or relationships that are challenging right now. All of that can just float away for just those few minutes when you're there, when you're remembering who you are as a soul, that you're a seed of the divine that needs to recharge. It needs to spend time with itself so that it can grow and come up through that soil and be like the sunflower that orients 100% towards the light, right? And its only purpose truly is to shine the essence that it is feeling inside of what it is through those nice deep roots it has in the earth. And we are built in the image. I don't know. I've seen things in posts on social media before, but humans are kind of built like a tree. I mean, our legs are kind of like
Yes, we
trunks,
are.
right? And
Yes.
we do have this connection with the earth when we're up and about our lives every single day and we're moving about all the daily activities. We are like a tree on the move, but we could connect with the fact that we have these deep energetic roots that naturally want to connect with the earth, that those in that connection with the earth that feeds our seed inside in that garden, that really wants to grow all the light that's been inside that seed, waiting for you to simply spend time with it. And then that's like what you're saying. When you spend time, when someone like a Becky can help you make space to go inside, to help you be comfortable with, take a few steps, into that garden, into that sacred space, and allow you to absorb the marrow of that experience, that seed has nourishment, not just the blueprint of who you are, but there's nourishment in there. There's love, which is what you're saying also. There's
Mhm.
love in that space. There's love in that seed that activates, and you can access it too. And I think that was a big journey for me. We all have life experiences. We all have things in childhood and in our adolescence and in our young adulthood, all throughout our lives that are tests or challenging, right? And I know when I had a particularly big challenge, that's what it required. Like my life was so chaotic that the chaos that was reeling out of control ultimately brought me to a still point. And that seems
Yeah.
like an oxymoron, like totally incompatible things. How can it be so chaotic that it's whizzing by so fast, this vortex of all this energy? How could that take you into a still point? If some people right now are listening to this and they don't have just small issues going on, but they have bigger issues going on where they do have a vortex of what might be chaos or discomfort or fear, stress, sometimes that's where that energy is leading you, is into a still point. And that's what I found when everything was so completely out of control. The only place there was for me to go was into just getting really still. And
It forces you.
It
It
forces
forces,
you.
it forces you. If you have any interest in getting out of the dark, not the darkness, but the challenge and the fear and the anxiety and all of that happens in those situations, because I've lived through them myself, and I'm sure I will continue to live through. As a human being, we have just different things that happen for us until we die. I mean, it just doesn't end until we die. But the thing that I want to say about that is, like, I've got a friend. She is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful, such a beautiful soul. Her husband has Alzheimer's and who's going through dementia, and it is so interesting because what I witness in her is that she is more calm now and more centered than ever before. And it's like the chaos of watching your soulmate slowly pull away, not physically, they're physically still there, but just mentally and emotionally not being able to be that same person, and not remember the things that were so important to the both of you together, and all of that. I mean, that's a huge major transition, way of life, connection, and all of that. But what's happened for her is that it's such a huge thing for her, with so much chaos and so much fear and sadness, disappointment, things like that, that she had to go deep inside to remember her joy, to remember that, yes, this is happening, but I'm not this. This is who I am. And so the whole situation that she's going through, which is huge, and it's amazing the things that she's needing to deal with this, but it has forced her to go inside. And I tell you, I've never seen anybody do this before, but she's glowing. Like, she was like, you know what? I need to remember who I am. And I need to go so deep, because I don't want to forget. I need to be present to all of this, to my husband, to his needs, to what's happening between us, et cetera, et cetera. But I cannot forget who I am. And because all of this stuff pulls her so much, she has to be so determined to be inside. And when you have that determination and you go deep, and then you do it on a regular basis, and you do it with that sense of, I really need to know who I am, then what happens is that you emanate that more, and you just live that more, even in the midst of all this chaos. And so she just freaking glows. She's going through the hardest thing she's ever gone through in her entire life. And she glows, she's smiling, she's peaceful, and she's just let all the little things go. It's amazing. It's absolutely
liberating.
amazing.
It's liberating.
Yeah.
It is liberating. And that's part of the glow. To me, that's what also liberated me. But I resonate with everything you just shared. It is a common universal experience when you go deep and you go into that place inside you, that is what is there for every single one of us, regardless of your circumstances. Right.
Yeah.
And we can find this life force, this comfort, this inspiration, this nourishment in whatever circumstances we're in. And so maybe we want to segue at this point in the conversation to spotlight that this is the season where families often come together, where there is more interaction with people that maybe we only see once or twice a year, right? And there can be expectations where people want the festivities to go a certain way, or there's expectations that you will play a role in a family dynamic that maybe you've outgrown, but the dynamic is still waiting for you at that family gathering, right?
Mhm.
All those things that come up for everybody at this time of year. And, how can we apply what we're talking about, this going deep, to the more day to day experiences that escalate a bit in their
Mhm.
energetic expression during the time of, certainly Hanukkah and Christmas and the new year that's coming up. So there's a lot of expectations. There's a lot of pressure. Sometimes people might be feeling financial stress at this time to try and keep up with things they might have been able to do a few years back, but the economy's different. The world is different. How can we connect the dots of this going deep to everyday experiences that people are going to be having right now? Yeah.
So yeah, excellent, excellent. So the thing that happens when we go deep is that we can remember who we really are. And when we do a practice of going deep, and we do it daily, and instead of saying, okay, you can certainly dedicate some time in the morning or the evening, to say, okay, this is my time. I'm just going to like sit with myself, and I'm just going to kind of sink down as deeply as I can into who I am, remembering the essence, remembering the energy of who I am. And that's the thing about going. So I guess maybe a couple of techniques might be useful at this point, because when we're in the midst of Christmas or Hanukkah or family gatherings, or sitting around the table with the big turkey in the middle, or whatever it is, sometimes we could use some techniques because sometimes we're not right there. So some techniques that allow this to be a practice that you do. Like, if you just do it every once in a while, it will only serve you sort of marginally. But if you allow yourself to love yourself so much that you prioritize your own mental health and your own well-being, and it really and truly becomes important to you, and you really own that, it's like, I don't want a life where I'm not feeling great. Yes, you're going to have situations, momentary things that maybe take you out of that momentarily, but there's a dedication, really, that's necessary. You have to be dedicated to yourself. You have to love yourself. You have to be willing to love yourself. And if you don't know how to love yourself, you've got to be willing to find out how. It's got to be important, because think about it. Anything that's not important to you, you forget about. You just kind of like push it off. It's like, you've got so many things on the plate. It's not that important. It's going to get pushed off. And so you've got to be dedicated to yourself. And if you're not, it's only going to be a marginal, help. So dedication to yourself, loving yourself, doing what you need to do for yourself, it's a priority. And so that dedication is part of the technique or the tools to use, that dedication. The other thing is, part of that dedication is a daily practice of some kind that allows you to go inside, whether you want to call it meditation, whether you want to dance around the room for, 10 minutes in the morning and 10 minutes a night, or it looks different to everybody. And I when I work with somebody, I can feel into their energy, and I can feel into, oh, this is the kind of thing that works for you. Athletes, for instance, some of them might want to sit and meditate, but I've heard story after story after story about how athletes, the runner's high, they things just fall away when they're in the middle of that, and they find themselves there. Everything else just goes away. So there are different ways of doing it. So exploring. exploring who you are, exploring the things that you're interested in. Maybe it's art, maybe it's painting or sculpting or singing or playing a musical instrument. You know, there's so many different things that we can do that allow all other things to fall away. And it just depends on you. What is your thing? So for you to explore yourself, to find out, hey, what does running do for me? Or what does taking a nice long walk do for me? Or swimming? Or what does art or singing or whatever do for me? You know, what does sitting and meditating do for me? You know, sitting in the woods or sitting in front of a fire, or I mean, there's like all these different kinds of things. And so the thing is that, you know, dedication to yourself, exploring who you are and exploring what you like, and exploring with the understanding of not, oh, running is going to do it for me, so that's what I'm going to do, and then find out that running doesn't do it for you, and so, oh, you know, all is lost, you know, because you have that expectation that running is it. Well, you know, open yourself up. Allow yourself to experience different kinds of things without expectation. You know, just allow it to be an experience. Okay, I'm going to play the guitar and see what I feel. Not to say, oh, this is going to do me really well, I'm going to be able to center myself, and just play the guitar. You know, just do what it is and allow that feeling to happen. Open up your energy and allow it to happen. And so, you know, daily practices of whatever kind, dedication, those are all sort of things that I recommend, like as a base, you know. When we're in the middle of something stressful, you know, like hanging out with the brother that used to beat you up as a kid, or an uncle who, you know, who's grumpy and who changes the vibe of everything, you know, or, you know, a mom who you've always felt, you know, was very destructive to your mental health or whatever, you know, whatever that might be. I would suggest taking a breath first, pausing, just not responding right away to whatever's happening. If you need to go into the bathroom and sit for a minute on the toilet, you know, taking that breath, taking a time out. You know, if you're at a dinner table and you can't leave, just close your eyes. And then respond. You know, allow yourself that moment to really connect with yourself. Remember, oh, this is who I am. I know that they think I'm this other thing, but I know who I am. And you can either get into it or not, depending on what's appropriate. But doing it from that deeper place, allowing yourself that moment before you respond. So there's a reaction, and response. Reaction, so we all have a reaction to everything. I mean, we can't not have a reaction. That's the first second or two. We can't really control that reaction so much, because it's that first initial second or two that we have that reaction. However, the third second, we have control over that. And so we can choose what we can do with that. And so stop, pause, remember what experience you want to have. Like, you know, and also going into, going into the family event, think about what kind of experience do I want to have? What's realistic? I'm with these people who cause these things to kind of bubble up inside of me. So what's realistic? You know, what experience do I want to have? You know, And so go into it saying, okay, this is the experience that I want to have. Okay, well, what am I going to do to create this experience? You know, have a plan before you get there. But that going back to the reaction and the response, you know, have the reaction like, oh God, I hate this guy, you know, or oh man, he makes me so angry. It's like, okay, now that was my reaction. Now what is my response? Okay, my response is, I don't really want to feel that. So I go inside, I take some deep breaths, I remember who I am, I remember my intention of going in, what it is that I want to do. I remember that I'm dedicated to myself and I'm dedicated to my mental health and well-being. And so you just respond in a way that says, okay, you know what? They're trying to trigger me. They're trying to pull me in, but I'm not going to allow it. I'm just going to smile and say, okay, you can be you. I'm just going to be me over here. You know? Yeah. So there's forethought before you get into these situations. Think about what you're getting into and the different ways that you can respond that are not the normal. Now, is it going to, you know, change them? You know, probably not, but that's none of our business what they do or say. Our business is this. This is our business. And the only thing that we can really control is this. And if we give that control away, then that's us giving it away. We have to bring it back in and take control. And stay inside. And so that's one of the gifts about going deep. When you go deep, it's a lot. When you're sitting in here and you're really strong in here and something else is happening, it takes a lot longer to actually travel up through here and then go out to that other situation and then all of a sudden, you know, go crazy, right? If you're up here and something's happening and it's like, you know, then all of a sudden there's madness happening, right? But if you're down here and something's happening, it takes a lot longer. And in that time, you have the time to choose how you will respond.
Yes, so beautiful. I just felt, just as you said, it does take a lot longer. Like in fractions of a second, this from the depths is longer than this. And it's a grounded response. Like if that truly is a seed in a garden inside you, it's coming from a deeper, broader, more aware space that can feel all time the past of the trigger, the present of the situation, and the future outcome of about what your response is going to be. The ego doesn't think that way. It's programmed to react to fear versus respond. So all the triggers that it's going to come out in probably a high level of emotionality in some way. But the seed, that deeper soul essence inside, that presence inside you, I also love what you're saying is part of the beautiful gifts of the season. Even if there's going to be triggers or challenges ahead, right? Or some may have already have happened. If you invest in you ahead of time, if you practice the very same skills that you just taught all of us, right, ahead of time, trying to, like at the table where some pretty intense accusations or you know, invitations to the dance, if you will, at the holiday table or gathering or whatever it might be.
Yep.
It's going to be so easy for you to roll right back into the patterns because you did no preparation. I think some of what we're talking about is a kind of preparation, and I love your word dedication and that commitment to yourself, because if you prepare your vessel to be in peace, to know how to reset into peace when you're not feeling peace, it is a lot easier if you've practiced even just a few breaths, even to know how to take a breath for the reaction that your ego or your initial energy field is going to have. knowing that you're going to have some of those reactions to energies in this season, but also, like you said, with some forethought, committing to a new response. And what we're talking about doesn't take hours and hours and hours of study. It may just take a minute each day that you say, I'm going to do what they said. I'm going to take one of these conscious breaths in the morning and a conscious breath at night, and just feel what that feels like before I travel many miles by plane or by car or whatever to see my family members, or to go to the holiday party at your work, right? That you know is coming, that's on the calendar, and there's expectations there. That if you practice this centering and going deep into the seed of your heart space, into your presence, into what is real about you, right? There's this life-giving energy. There's this prana that wants to fill you. And I swear, one breath like this is like a whole oxygen tank at a holiday table, right? And people
Mhm.
don't necessarily give it the time because we get so busy, but we're messengers of inviting people to consider making that time, to consider prioritizing, use the word prioritizing these skills. Because you, who may never in Christmases past, or never in holidays past, or never in end of year celebrations past, were able to keep your cool when that person, that family member, the one that gets you riled up the most in whatever way or shape or form, if you can breathe through them having their opinions, or playing their part of the dynamic, or the game that often gets played, and you are just breathing through it, and saying to yourself as you breathe, they are a sovereign being. They can be doing those things, right? And I may not change that, but I can change who I want to be, who I am truly. And the breath reminds you of that. That breath isn't just air. A lot of people don't think about the fact that there's a difference between the air that we've all been taught about, oxygen and whatnot, that the body basically requires. But this kind of, when you add your consciousness to that breathing, it becomes another life force, doesn't it? It becomes a whole other
Yes.
soothing, revitalizing, grounding energy for you. Yeah.
And so that brings me to my next point, which is, when you bring your consciousness to it, you can ask yourself, you're at the table, and you can certainly ask this question before you get there again to prepare. But the thing is that, who do I want to be in this moment? How do I want to actually respond to this? Who do I want to be? What do I want to be somebody who's angry, somebody who's frustrated, somebody who's unhappy or sad or disappointed or whatever? Or do I want to be loving and kind and compassionate towards myself and towards everybody else here? Who do I want to be? How do I want to respond? What do I want to actually bring to the table? A lot of times we're so reactive to everything that's happening, and we forget that we actually bring something to the table. We actually bring our own energy to the table. So if we're in a sort of a miserable, angry kind of place, then that's what we're bringing to the table, and that's what we're sharing with everybody else. But if we are in a loving and kind and compassionate place inside of ourselves and feeling really good about who we are, that is what we can bring to the table. But also that can inform our response to whatever's happening. And the fact is that when we get together with family, we're talking about all the hard things that happen when we get together. Lots of beautiful, fun things happen too. But and so I don't want to, say, oh, everything's always, going to be hard and negative, because that's not. It's just, the thing is that you're getting together with your family. And for most people, there is a truly strong basis of love for and with each other, and so we can choose to remember that. We can choose to say, you know what? You know why I'm here? I'm here because I love my family. I'm here because I want to be with them. I want to be here. I want to share this time and place and space with my brothers and sisters or children or parents or whoever it is that you're with. And friends or family, like if you don't have a family gathering to go to and you're at a friend's house, you are still bringing something to the table. And so before you get there, it's like, what do I want to bring to the table? Who do I want to be? And so, just having that inquiry into yourself. Who do I want to be now, next week, whenever? But like, not, who am I? Generally speaking, I'm going deep and figuring out who I am. But at the same time, it's like, who do I want to be in this moment? What gift do I want to give in this holiday setting to the people I'm sitting with? We might be going through a whole lot of stuff. We might be going through financial hardship, or questioning our purpose in life, or trying to figure out what's next for us, or trying to navigate this crazy ass world that has been created after COVID. We're trying to do all these things and figure all this stuff out, but it's like, what do I want to be in this moment? What gift do I want to give the people that I love, the people who invited me here today, or the people who I've invited in? And yes, what gift of self can I give them? And so we think about ourselves a lot, but wouldn't it be wonderful if we could be in a place of compassion when whoever that person is who's angry or frustrated or confused, that's sitting at the other end of the table, who doesn't know what life is going to bring to them next year and who's really worried about it? What can we give that person by our presence? What can we exude? And what love can we offer? Because that's what this is. Anything that we give is a form of love. So what kind of love do we want to offer? How can we come to this table and know that we are participating? We are fully participating in the energy that is happening. We're not just a bystander. We're not just a fly on the wall looking at everybody else and seeing whatever everybody else is participating and seeing what they're bringing. And, oh, they're bringing anger, or they're bringing frustration. Oh, they're bringing love, or, oh, they're bringing joy, or whatever. It's not about, it's like, we are bringing something. Own it.
Yes.
Own what we're bringing. Know ourselves well enough. Own what we are, who we are, and own what we are bringing. And if we want to be a loving presence in this world, there's no better practice than to get together with your family, because anything that can take us out of who we think we're enlightened. This is another Ram Dass thing. You think you're enlightened, spend a week with your family. Then, but it's like, who do we want to be? And that may be just not to be triggered. Maybe it's that simple. But maybe it's more. Maybe it's a hug or a touch or a smile, or maybe it's, wow, I can feel your pain. I see it, I feel it, and I'm sorry that you're going through that. And let me just, I get it. I'm going through the same thing. Connect, give. Offer, offer that thing that you have, because you are a gift. And to remember that, and to know that maybe the purpose of this gathering isn't about you. Maybe it's about them and what you can give them.
By your presence, by your willingness to dedicate to what we're talking about. Yeah. And it is an investment in yourself. It is an investment in self-care. It is an investment in, I call them soul skills. We can call them tools in your spiritual toolbox or in your awareness toolbox. But it's a game changer. It's a dynamic changer. And it's part of what can add more joy and light into the season, because people do love their families, right? Underneath all the stuff that might otherwise convince them that they may not, right? Or they may have been super challenged with their mom or their dad or their grandfather or whatever it might be. For a lot of people, they actually do love their families, but there's all this smog of the dynamics of yesteryear that wants to hang out in the holiday gatherings too, while it's also incredibly festive and then you may also have alcohol or other substances that get into the conversation as well. But if you are somebody that's committed to this breathing into the seed inside you, into your presence, and you create that practice so that you pay in, you invest into yourself where you can feel grounding when they're not there. That's part of what we're talking about, is the preparation is ahead of time. You get really comfortable breathing into you when there's a trigger, so that whenever anything is coming into your experience that doesn't feel good or is challenging or just doesn't sit right with you, you can take a breath and be fortified. You can take a breath and find your center. And that alone is a healing force. It's an amazing gift you can give to your family and to yourself in these times, and to your friends and loved ones. So it's very powerful what we're talking about. And of course, there's great joy and celebration and wonderful things that's going on. But often people don't find their way into a podcast or conversation like this if it's easy, if it's so easy like that. People are looking for the skills and the tools if they know that they may be going into something that in years past or last week was challenging. Maybe people already have a sense of and a feeling of resonating with what we're talking about. If you know that there's some challenges coming up, whatever they may be, that you can access this now. You can listen to this podcast and feel the two of us feeling this. We are modeling for you what it feels like to just take a breath and see that breath go deep into the seed in your soul, in your center, in your heart. And you're watering it with your consciousness of an awareness that that even has value to you. That is the watering of these great seeds. And when you water that throughout this month, every single day, you'll be amazed at how much more centered you can be, no matter what's on the news cycles, no matter what's going on with this person or that person or the corporate office or whatever it might be. You can access this. And this to me is the joy and the light of the season. This is what faith and the world's major religions all began with, something like this that they had to breathe through at the time these rituals or these holidays were first seeded on the planet. It usually was through a time of some kind of challenge that some miracle occurred, right?
Yeah.
But there was great faith for the miracles then to occur. And there's great faith required of us in these times as well. And faith, it can be a religious word. So for some people, insert the word, we can insert courage, right? We can insert peace or centeredness or grace, having some grace in a time of challenge and triggers. So I wanted to just seed one more topic as we round out this conversation today, because I think we could have many more conversations about things just like this, right?
Yes.
A lot of people in the month of December will be reflecting on the previous year, this last 11, 12 months, and the new year that's coming up, right? 2024. We're on the cusp of 2024 now. Is there anything in that awareness of going deep with all the things that you've talked about of how we navigate some of these times, how we find our center and expand joy, and how we find peace when we're challenged and stillness when we're challenged? How do we want to connect with our dreams in 2024 with this awareness of going deep and, whatever else you might want to say about that, for giving some forethought and planting seeds for things we do want to experience in the new year? Yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
So self-inquiry is really huge. Courage is really huge. So, you know, when we do go deep, you know, the first thing is to really just feel into the energy of who we are. You know, the part of us that is so deeply connected to all the other things that exist in the world, all that is. So we are an individual, but the deeper we sink into who we are, the more connected we understand ourselves to be. The more we realize we are truly all one. And so the deeper we sink into that, into the essence, that's a whole nother topic if we go deeper into that. But when we go that deep and we you know, feel the essence of who we are, we feel the energy, our nervous system calms down, everything is just, you know, oh gosh, such a relief to be here. Oh, I'm home again. Okay. So now ask, inquire, you know, whatever it is that's happening in your life, what is this all about? You know, where is this taking me? What is it that I want from this? What is it that I really want from life? You know, what is it that's going to make life worth living for me? What is the gift in all of this? There are so many different questions that we can ask ourselves. How can I solve this issue with my child? How can I solve this issue with my work? You know, what is this all of? What's really going on here? Not in a judgmental way, like, what's really going on here? But like, really, what's really going on here? What is this conflict really all about? You know, where is this taking? Okay. And then, you know, you've got to ask these questions, but then you also have to listen to the response. It's a two-way street. It's a conversation that you're having. You talk, you express yourself fully, you listen, you answer the questions that are being asked of you. You know, you ask questions and questions are going to come back. And so you answer with as much authenticity and genuineness that you can.
Truth.
It's true. You know, you be true to yourself. You know, allow the truth to really express itself in these moments when you're inside. Because the more you inquire, the more you know, hang out down here inside yourself, the more you connect with others, not just one-to-one like this, but going deep and then, you know, seeing yourself on the other side. You know, this other being, this other person, this other animal and horse or dog or cat or pet or whatever is you know, whatever animals out there, we're all one at expressing ourselves as an individual. So if we're trying, whoever you're trying to connect with, whatever situation you're trying to connect with, even the situation is part of who you are. We're all connected from that deep level. We all go down, our roots go all the way down into the Creator who creates all things. And so it doesn't matter what it is that we're facing, a person, a place, a thing, a situation, a feeling, a thought, whatever, it's all coming from that same place. And so the deeper we go into that place, the more understanding we will have about that other person, place, situation, etc. And so it is really important to connect on that deep level and ask ourselves those really important questions. What's really going on here? What is it that I really want to get out of this? I'm not happy, so why am I not happy? What is it that I want to do with my life? And now, years ago I knew, and so I followed that, and great, I achieved that, or I didn't achieve that, or whatever happened. But all of that is in the past. So now, where do I want to go from here? So how do we move forward? We move forward through inquiry and through being courageous enough to ask those really important questions. And once we get the answer, which we will, we may not get it the first time we ask the question. We may have to ask the question for a week or a month or longer before we actually get the answer. But if we stop asking the question, we will never get the answer. We have to continue. And that's where the courage comes in. We have to continue to ask that question. We have to continue to go deep. We have to continue to follow whatever guidance it is that we're getting, no matter how uncomfortable it is. Because guidance, it will get you where you want to go, but it's not necessarily always going to lead you down the easiest path or the most comfortable path. You have to go through what you have to go through to get to where you want to go. And that requires courage. That requires practice. That requires dedication to yourself. Yes. You know, and so as we're connected, 2024 is going to be an intense year, just like 2023, 2022, it's like these last several years have all been so freaking intense. Well, surprise, surprise, 2024 is going to offer its own sense of intensity and in its own, it's the change is still happening, folks. It's still coming. And the way to face what is coming, the energies of 2024, is by what we're talking about, by going deep, doing that self-inquiry and asking, what is it that I want to bring to 2024? I am coming to the table. What is it that I want to bring with me to 2024? Who do I want to be in 2024? Well, if you want to be love and light, then you've got to practice love and light. You can't be petty or gossipy or, easily triggered. You've got to say, wait a second, I know I was easily triggered in the past, but you know what? I don't want to be easily triggered anymore. And so that's a choice. That's a choice that you can make to not be easily triggered. That's a choice. And so it's about choosing wisely, knowing what you want to bring, knowing who you are, knowing that you're asking the right questions, that you're asking the questions about what is it that I'm passionate about? I don't really know. I don't know what I'm passionate about. Well, spend time and find out. Explore yourself. Explore, you know what? I've always wanted to learn how to act. Well, maybe going to an acting class or joining your local, unprofessional, not, your theater group. Yeah. It's like, figuring it, thinking, oh gosh, I wonder what it's like to do this. Oh, I've always wanted to skydive. Oh, where can I do that? How can I, so you find the thing and then you explore it.
And I love that lead in that you used, I wonder, because I wonder somehow the ego softens and it doesn't feel as threatened by that word, by that phrase. And those are things you find when you're in the journey where you might use some language with yourself and you bring up fear in yourself and you almost might stop the process of inquiry. But when you use words like I wonder, or wouldn't it be interesting, those kinds of things where you kind of sneak past the ego's, armed guards, right? and you can get in, and you can get into the spirit of your soul essence. It's amazing. And one of the other things that I really felt when you were talking so beautifully about this process and about the new year is that I think we are called to engage and participate. And as we ask these questions with this softer language, if we need softer language, it's you. It's the divine in you that holds the answers. And like you said, some people will get answers on the first inquiry, the first, attention that they give to it. But sometimes it takes a little bit longer. But what I find is the taking a little bit longer is the opening of your seed, is the opening of your own soul essence, that you get comfortable with you accessing this deeper awareness. So it's not that something outside of you is forbidding accessing what you're really seeking to know about. It's you have this inner blooming process that's going on in your own garden, and you are giving yourself permission to access the things that you do deeply know. But if you're unpracticed in these kinds of conversations with yourself, not with the typical, more typical kind of self-criticism or the ego conversations that we have with ourselves, this is on a whole different level. This conversation, you're seeking to know who you are. And sometimes it's like a friendship that takes a little bit longer to establish itself again. You're reestablishing connection with your spirit, with your essence. And it happens when it happens. But the fun, it just like if you had a new friendship that was forming and you still didn't really know each other, and you go to and meet for lunch one time, and then you go to a movie for another time, and then you go somewhere else, or then you decide 6 months down the road that you're going to go to the beach for the day and you're going to spend like 4 hours in the car together, right? You're getting to know each other. This is what this process is. You are getting to know you again. You're getting to know who you are, the marrow of you, the sunflower, whatever that seed is for you, the essence of you that's amazing and that has so many incredible gifts that want a seat at the table in these conversations. And what I hope is coming through in our conversation today, that it's worth getting to know who that is inside you. And when you're with friends and family, and the holidays are wonderful and fabulous and festive, and also with some mixed in triggers and some other things going on as well, that you can take a breath in those moments. Remember this conversation and know that you are seeking to be the best friend to you, right? That you are seeking to befriend you in those situations. And that's why you would give yourself that breath of stillness. That's why you would take a moment at a table if something like that comes up, whether it's super high energy and you just need to recenter, it's so good you need to take a breath to center, or if it's so challenging that you need to take a breath to center. You are befriending you. You are cultivating this friendship and this connection and this soul kinship and remembering inside you. And that is the gift. And when you are much more aligned over time with who that is, you can sit at any table, you can be at any gathering, you can hear any news, you can be surfing any waves, and you can be centered and light and love and joy and the grace that you bring to this world in the ways that you bring it, right?
Exactly. And I wanted, you said something wonderful. The thing about, sometimes you get the answer right away, and sometimes it takes some time. The thing that is important to understand is that the space in between of when you ask the question and when you get the answer, however long or short that might be, there are gifts all throughout.
Yes, there are.
And so it's kind of like you use the relationship example, which I love, because when you first meet somebody, there might be this instant chemistry, or this instant thing, or commonality, or whatever, this joy or whatever that comes. But that's just the first thing. That's just the first gift. But, each experience that you have with that person thereafter is another gift, and another one, and another one. And, you may not decide that you're best friends or lovers, or you're going to get married, or whatever the kind of relationship it is. You may not decide that for quite some time, a year or two. Let's use a romantic relationship because it's a little bit easier for an example. But you meet, you date, you're falling in love, and then you spend time together. Maybe you move with each other, maybe you don't, but over time, then you're like, oh, you know what, I'm at this place now where I realize I want to marry this person. I actually really want to spend the rest of my life with that person. It doesn't happen. I mean, yes, there is, love at first sight, but that's love at first sight. That's not the beauty of the whole relationship, and each moment in the relationship is a gift, and each gift builds upon, all the other gifts. And so after, several years together, the gift of the relationship is huge compared to when it first started with that, instant, love at first sight. And so when you're asking yourself, when you're doing that self-inquiry, and you ask the question, you kind of meet yourself for that first time, right? And you're asking, so you have to have those moments, you have to receive those gifts of self-inquiry, that every time you have a moment of self-inquiry, that's another gift that builds upon all the other moments of self-inquiry. And so it might take some time to get to the answer that you've been looking for, or that you've been expecting or wanting. But that doesn't mean that any of this is invaluable, or isn't an amazing gift, and doesn't offer you some really amazing things. Maybe there's a direction that you go in that you never thought of going in. Maybe there's all these other things that can happen. So just because you ask a question and there's time in between getting the answer, it doesn't mean it's wasted time. It doesn't mean it's invaluable. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of that. Every single moment between the asking of the question and the receiving of the answer is absolutely a strong participant in the journey that is necessary for you to get that answer.
So brilliantly said. So brilliantly said. And I think so many people need to hear that. And it's a good reminder for me as well, is that we're all creators. We're all creating actually all the time. But if there's an intention or a desire or a request or, an ask that we have, and there's time in between when the thing that we desire shows up, it really is important to remember that every precious moment in the becoming is all part of summoning that in. And it only can come as fast as your spirit is actually ready to let it in, right? Your vessel is capable of letting in what you're asking for. Many people ask, and if there is a longer delay, it's because there's more a requirement or a situation where it requires your participation and your nourishing. And the more you open to what that is, the quicker it comes to you. And so there's all of this, everything that we're talking about involves awareness. And both on Whole Soul Mastery and at Whole Soul School and Foundation, it's so essential that we are cultivating this awareness. It's a gift you give yourself. What you first may have feared and you have not wanted to be aware of, you wanted to push it out of your consciousness. What you find when you're on this path, in this process of becoming you, right? You begin to allow in and value awareness as like your very life breath, because that is what creates your life. Is the more aware you can be, the more expansively you can live the life that you most desire, right? I'm so grateful that you joined me, Becky, in this conversation, in our previous conversation with Louise. And I would really love for you to join me again in the new year. And let's talk more about the seeds of the energies of 2024. I would like to ask you to tell people, number one, they can reach you at your website at beckygrabski.com. I will post that also in the description section of the video. I also wanted to seed plant, if we're seed planting, that you have the, the vision for a new podcast series that is just at the seedling stages. Let's take a breath for Becky's seedling stages here, but beautifully seeded in your consciousness. And what is the name of that?
So actually, I would like to use this as an example of what we've just been talking about, because I've been actually wanting to do a podcast, not just be a guest on a podcast, but have my own podcast for quite some time. And I've been going through, I've been asking, I've been going deep, I've been being present with it, I've been doing my self-inquiry, and it's been 2 or 3 years. It's been a while, and now there's been gifts along the journey. I've met different people who could help me figure out how to do a podcast. I've talked to different people who can help me with like the technology end of it. I've talked to people that, I want them to be on a guest on my podcast, so there are things. And also another thing that's been going on is, from the first time I wanted to do a podcast, was like, oh man, I know I'd be really good at it, and I really want to do it. And I've got all these really amazing friends who are artistic and intelligent and centered and all of these different things. And like, I could do this and that. Oh, but I'm kind of scared. Do I really want to do that? Do I really want to put myself out there like that? Oh, gosh, that's going to take some dedication. That's going to take some, some
participation.
Participation, preparedness. That's gonna take some things from me that I'm not sure that I have to give right now, And so, what are those things? I know I'm feeling resistance inside of myself, but what is that really all about? What do I need to look into myself and find before I can actually do this? So there's been a lot that has happened between my first, I want to do a podcast, to today, where I can tell you that the seed is, I've come across different names of what I wanted to call my podcast and what I wanted to concentrate on, etc. Right. And so I've had various things, but through texting with you and talking about this particular podcast that you and I are participating in right now, it came to me. Finally, the answer arrived. Yay. And so the podcast is going to be called Going Deep with Becky. And the tagline is conversations about what makes life worth living.
I have chills each time you've shared that. It was the second time now I've heard you say it. Chills, because I can already feel the percolating messages that are going to come through you, that are going to impact so many people's lives, that need the messages that only you, Becky, with the guests that you'll have, can deliver, can channel through, can be conduits of. So it's exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting.
Very exciting.
This is truly the seed. We're talking the seed here. And at the same time, once I got that piece, all of a sudden, like all of these other things opened up. And I've already asked certain, different friends to be guests, and they've both said yes. And so now it's like, okay, now I've got to get my shit in order. Now it's time to, rock and roll with this, And
That's
so
right.
I'm very excited.
And that time in between, if it was 2 to 3 years or 2 to 3 months or 2 to 3 minutes, but for you it was 2 to 3 years, was all the preparing the way for your own
Yeah.
readiness to step in to what this truly is, right?
Yeah.
And I think you shared before we started the show today, and I've had my experience with that. I've had names come to me, and I have the vision, but things just weren't quite right until it finally drops in, and you're like, bam, that's it. That's the energy. That's the essence. And you knew it. You knew it when it dropped in. And it shows all the cultivating, all the asking, all the summoning, all the inquiring. There is a divine timing and a point of readiness for all of us.
Yes.
It always starts with the ask. It always starts with the inquiry. And
Yes.
another friend of mine that these audiences listen to is Terry Cole Whitaker, and that's her first point in basically creating a life of spiritual and earthly riches, right? Is the ask. That's her step number one. You have to ask. So you have asked, and you have been dedicated in the asking, and you have cultivated the allowing, and now the seed has birthed. And now you
Yes.
have the seed in this garden that is going to begin blooming. And maybe in 2024, we will see some of these podcasts. We will be able to share that you have some
Yes.
and that process, but it's already unfolding. It's already in like that creationary cycle. And now that you've claimed it, you're committing to it, you're dedicating to it, it's coming into fruition. So I celebrate that with you. I look forward to hearing
Yes.
more about that from you. And then there's one more thing before we close out. You have an offering you wanted to share with the audience.
Yes, 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 yes. So, we're heading into 2024, folks.
It's here. It's here.
It's here. And so who would have thought 2024? Oh my God. And so all of these energies, it's going to be another intense year. So how this year is going to affect each one of us individually is the way it's going to affect you is going to be different from the way it affects me, right? Because we have different things going on in our lives. We have different energies that our essences are very individual, etc. And so this is what I do. My purpose in life is to help people go deep, deal with the stuff that's happening inside in a way that can really shift it from an issue or a problem into a blessing, into an understanding, into a place to jump off from and go into the future with, and unburdened, from this thing that they've been dealing with. And so that's the gift that I've been given to give other people. That's the purpose of the gift, is to help other people. And so with that, I am offering a personal energy forecast for 2024 for anybody who watches this podcast and who wants to have that. Please just go to my website, go into the Contact Becky. You can, type in, say, hey, I'd like the 2024 forecast, and we can get together with that. I'm looking forward to helping as many people as possible to navigate 2024 with as much information and with as much connection as they possibly can, because we're still in the bumpy part of the road. We're still in the bumpy part of the road. So
yes, and
I'm very excited.
I'm excited for you. I'm excited for the people who will reach out to you. And again, we'll have those contact details also in the description of the video.
Yeah.
And a lot of things have the potential to be launching. We are creator beings. We are summoned to create, and also summoned to get in touch with the things that may block us or quagmire us or keep us stuck and not moving forward. Those are the things that seem to be your specialty, Becky. And the world needs people like you who enjoy and who honor and know it's a sacred gift to be able to go deep with people like this. So I want to thank you. I want to thank you for joining me today. I want to thank you for your gifts. And I want to thank our audience for spending time with us. And I look forward to more incredible messages on the adventures, right, of living our purpose, living through these times, understanding that these are times of incredible change, and where people can learn to embrace change as the best thing that ever happened to them. That's what my hope is for this audience and into 2024. So I wish you happy holidays, Becky. Thank you again. And I wish our listeners happy holidays. And we will see you again soon for more inspiration from Whole Soul Mastery and Whole Soul School and Foundation. Blessings, everyone.
Thank you.